lately, the oil and gas industry has seen some developments, most of which are responses to the macroeconomic conditions by the fiscal authorities. While some of these developments don't go down well with stakeholders in the industry, operators and key players have resorted to dialogue while still pushing for solutions to other unions. The Petroleum and the Natural Gas Senior Staff Association, PENGASSAN, is one of the labor unions concerned about these developments, and the president, Comrade Festus Osifo, joins us now to discuss the position of the body on some of these burning economic issues. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program. Now, since the commencement of full deregulation in the downstream, what has the market experience been like for PENGASSAN?
Yes, good morning, BC. Good morning, Nigerians. Practically, for PENGASSAN and for the oil and gas industry, we have never been against deregulation. We have strongly believed that deregulation of the downstream sector of the Nigerian oil and gas industry will open up the industry for more players, will open up the industry for more growth and development. So for us, clearly, we have a firm belief that the full deregulation of the will attract more players. If you could recall that in the last 10 years, for example, the upstream sector of the Nigerian oil and gas industry has experienced some level of growth. But the downstream sector of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, at best, has been flat. And the reason that it has been flat is not far away from the fact that the sector is being hugely regulated. So over the years, we have canvassed that the sector should be deregulated. But there are some condition precedent. There are some things that we've canvassed for that must be done before the deregulation take place. You know, PENGASSAN, even in 2016, opined that the federal government should through the NNPC, bring about the revitalization of our refineries and should ensure that the NLNG model is being used because we don't want the refinery to be sold. We have said that over and over again because we believe that a true functional refinery is possible. So we're now saying that let's have a public-private partnership using the NLNG model to ensure that our refinery works. But today, is that feasible today, or has it been done today? The answer probably is a no. But one win that we have been able to secure in the recent discussion with government and in NNPC is to ensure that in the rehabilitation of the refinery that is currently, or that is about to kick off, using the Port Harcourt as a test case, they have brought in PENGASSAN and NUPENG into the steering committee. We were able to push for that because over the years, we have said that as PENGASSAN and NUPENG, at the leadership level, we should be involved. We should know what is happening to these refineries. We should know the processes that are put in place to ensure that our refinery works. But today, the steering committee, we have been integrated. Then the validation committee as well, that will be going from site to site, going to the refineries, and to actually check what is happening in the refinery, who will now be reporting back to the steering committee. We've also, PENGASSAN and NUPENG will be represented at that level. Then every quarter, we are going to be briefing Nigerians. We will let Nigerians understand and let Nigeria know the state of the refineries, what is being done, and when the refinery will come into, let's say, 60, 70, or 80% functional. So for us in PENGASSAN, we saw that as a departure from the past, where things are being done in a very opaque manner, where we are not carried along on the processes that we've put in place to ensure that our refinery works. So we think that if that is done, if PENGASSAN and NUPENG play that key role, we will be able to push and we'll tell Nigerians the truth. When things are not working well, we will tell Nigerians that things are not working well. When things are working well, we will tell Nigerians as well. So all the timelines that will be developed, all the timelines that will be put in place and that will be jointly agreed, we will ensure that government and NNPC, they follow those timelines and in ensuring the revitalization of the refineries. So currently, a lot of traction has been made in the Port Harcourt refinery and efforts have been put in place as well for the Kaduna and Warri refinery. But as PENGASSAN, we must hold them accountable. Then once these refineries are fixed, then the next thing, which we also agreed, was that PENGASSAN and NUPENG will be consulted on the operational model of these refineries. So we will come out at every point in time to let Nigeria know where we currently are. So for us, we are not against deregulation, but what we've been against over the years is import-driven deregulation, because we believe that our refineries not working today is purely act of sabotage. Port Harcourt refinery, for example, was built in 1989, thereabout, just about 30 years plus. And there are some refineries all over the world. I mean, the second part of the Port Harcourt refinery, there are two. The 150,000 barrels of Port Harcourt refinery was built in 1989. So there are refineries all over the world that are 100 years old, but they are still functional because there is a steady turnaround maintenance in these refineries. So the current rehabilitation going on in Port Harcourt refinery, we will also encourage the NNPC management to fast track in replicating in Kaduna, in Warri refineries as well.
All right. Now, having said that, President Muhammadu Buhari recently submitted the Petroleum Industry Bill to the National Assembly for approval. Now, to what extent is PENGASSAN positive about this bill?
Yes, you know that the Nigerian Petroleum Sector Reform Bill, which we could call PIB, is aimed at harmonizing all legal instruments covering the oil and gas industry. I mean, it's also to strengthen some of the key institutions and enshrine international best practices. The PIB actually is aimed at repealing some of the old outdated laws that we've been using, the old legal regimes that we've been using in the oil and gas industry, like the Petroleum Profit Act of 1959, like the Mineral Oil Act of 1963, the Petroleum Act of 1969, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Decree of 1997. So if you could remember vividly that the journey started quite a long time ago. The journey started during the era of former President Olusegun Obasanjo administration, when he set up the Oil and Gas Reform Committee under the headship of Riwani Lukman. So from the OGROC, they came up with a national oil and gas policy. So that national oil and gas policy was later adopted, and in 2005, an implementation committee was set up, popularly referred to as the OGIC. But ever since then, the Obasanjo administration left, the Yar'Adua administration came, and they brought about the PIB, that the first copy was submitted in 2008. But again, a lot of contestation in that version that was submitted in 2008. Then after then, we now also moved on to 2016 or thereabout. Again, in 2012, another one was submitted, but it was jettisoned. Then in 2016, that was when we made a little traction. And in that traction, the then Senate, the 8th Senate, broke down the PIB into about 4 trenches. And I mean, the first one was talking about the governance bill that now later ended up as the PIGB. Then we now also have, we're supposed to also have the host community bill. We're supposed to have as well the fiscal regime bill and the administration bill. But when the PIGB was passed in 2018, the president refused to assent to it. But today, we are quite excited, we are quite happy because of the fact that a new PIB has been submitted to the National Assembly, and it is an executive bill. So it shows that the executive, at this time, they are a bit interested. I could tell you, BC, that we've had Nigeria as a country, we have lost much because of the fact that the PIB was not passed. We have lost a lot because if we do an analysis, some analysis has been done by some experts in the industry, and they put it that we've lost over $70 billion because our PIB was not passed. Because a lot of the IOC companies, because of the uncertainties in the industry, they refuse to do massive investment. For example, our exploration in Nigeria, our reserve in the last 5 years, 6, 7 years, had been within about 37, 38 billion barrels. And it's been there for that long while. We had a plan as a country to move it to about 40 billion, but we've not been able to do that. And PIB is also responsible for that. So today we are quite excited, but at the implementation, rather at the phase where they were putting this bill together, PENGASSAN and NUPEN, we weren't consulted. But as it is now, we are currently reviewing the bill and we are putting everything together to make our position known, because we want no single worker in the oil and gas industry should lose his job because of the fact that we are pushing PIB. So we are going to stand firm to that. So our reviews are on the way. We are currently looking at the bills to ensure that at the end of the day, the workers in the Nigeria oil and gas industry is protected. And at the end of the day, we will ensure that the final bill that is passed is a worker-friendly bill.
Now, talking about you having your input in the bill, now, of course, just as you mentioned, there have been several concerns about the PIB in the past. That's for the past 20 years, that is. What is the position of PENGASSAN on the bill, especially talking about the provisions for taxes to be paid for the IOCs?
Yes, for us, we believe that PIB is going to replicate some of the international best practices. Nigeria, we are not operating in isolation. So we are not operating in on a system whereby we are operating alone. We are operating in an international environment. We are operating in a place where we could copy what is happening in America, what is happening in Venezuela, what is happening in other parts of the world. So those things will be brought into bear at the public hearing phase. So I believe as well that everything should be balanced. Yes, the government needs more money to meet its obligation. That's fair enough. As well, it must create a regime to ensure that the oil and gas industry develop. So it must be a win-win situation. Like what we've seen in the bill. The bill today is divided into about 5 chapters. We have the governance and institution, we have the administration, we have the host community, we have the petroleum industry fiscal framework, and the miscellaneous provision. So under the petroleum industry fiscal framework, in the 239 pages bill, we could also see that the provisions of hydrocarbon tax and revenue and profit tax, they are all spelled out there. But I believe the IOCs as well, they will also make their representation during the public hearing phase.
Now, let's talk about another issue now, and that's the fact that you had 5 agencies of the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources that you had asked to be exempted from the integrated payroll and personnel information. Has PENGASSAN's view about this initiative changed?
No, clearly it hasn't changed because what we did was that we set up, we nominated our members to be in the committee of the IPPIS to discuss with them and look at our peculiarities in the industry. Worldwide, the industry has some specific allowances that are not captured in the ministries. So we've asked them to sit down to look at these. But the IPPIS office, they have been refusing us to have such meeting, have a technical committee. It was until we wrote several letters before the committee was even constituted. And they had one meeting and they never met again. What was the purpose of that meeting? Come and display to us. Come and show to us that this IPPIS will not shortchange our members. But at the end of the day, they are refusing to do it. Instead, they are going through the back door to start enrolling our members, like our members in NNROA, for example. And the first time they paid them, there was a shortfall in their remuneration. And remember that in the oil and gas industry, we have what we call the collective bargaining agreement. So in NNROA, there's a collective bargaining agreement that was signed in 2015. But what is being implemented is something that is a bit different from that. So clearly, our position on IPPIS still remains, and we urge government to take deliberate steps to address those issues bordering on the remuneration of our workers in government agencies.
But now that the PIB has offered to scrap the PPPRA, which was one of the agencies of government that you had protected against the IPPIS, what would be PENGASSAN's views?
Yes, our views are very Our views are very direct. All our members in PPPRA, their jobs must be protected. Our members in Petroleum Equalization Fund, their jobs must be protected. That is why, as it is today, PENGASSAN, we are currently looking at the bill, we are studying the bill, and we are putting our processes together to ensure that the upstream commission that will be formed, the mid and the downstream authority that will also come into bear, we absorb all our members. So at the end of the day, all our members, they will be absorbed. All our members in government agencies, I can assure you that PENGASSAN and NUPENG, we will stand with them to ensure that they are all absorbed into the commission and the authorities that will be formed. So because they may be self-sustaining at the end of the day, then the issue of IPPIS may die naturally. But we still have Petroleum Training Institute. Petroleum Training Institute is another agency under us. NNRO is another agency under us that they will still push on the issue of the IPPIS. So the IPPIS issue will still remain live, even post-PIB.
Now, I know you're very passionate about the interest of your members. I was talking about protecting the interest of your members. And some of your members recently protested against Chevron Nigeria's planned sack of 25% or about 600 of its workforce. What's the justification for that protest, especially considering the fact that the oil major has explained that the move will help it strengthen its business and stay competitive, especially in these tough times?
Yeah, BC, thank you very much. You know, in the labor world, there are processes. In the labor world, there are laws. So before you go about redundancy, you ought to follow the processes and you ought to respect the laws. So currently today, you know, Chevron in the HQ announced that they want to reduce between 10 to 15% of the staff worldwide. But in doing that, you ought to sit down with your local union. You sit down with them. You have the engagement. I am from an IOC. I cannot remember any time where such program is about to be implemented and you just inform the union. What Chevron management did was just information. But such program, in most cases, are discussed over 3 to 6 months. You discuss them, you have a robust engagement, and you both agree on the way forward. So you have a CBA. Chevron management never respected that CBA. Chevron management never carried NNPC along. NNPC is the agency that is responsible for managing the federal government investment in the IOCs. But Chevron management never carried them along. DPRO, Chevron management never carried them along. And remember as well, BC, that the federal government of Nigeria has a mantra of creating jobs. And today, instead of Chevron management to be assisting in that mantra, they are going the other way. I urge the Nigerian government to stand up, just as the government of Venezuela did, just as the government of Kazakhstan did, that they told the Chevron management, no, you cannot unilaterally sack our workers, because after all, the oil bill us. So we believe that Chevron management, they have a lot of things that they are hiding. That is why they are refusing to discuss. We are open to discussion. We are open to negotiation. Whenever they are ready, we will have that discussion with them. But this should be objective.
We'll all be waiting for the outcome of that meeting if it happens. We'd like to thank you, PENGASSAN President, Comrade Festus Osei, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, BC.